a hard no on the Bechdel test this week. Just not even in the realm of a pass.
At least Kat was a good character.
She was great, honestly. Just because there wasn't 2 female characters doesn't mean, like, the female characters we had weren't great. Kat was fantastic.
I loved her. I want good things for her.
This is honestly not a super memorable episode for me, but I think Kat is a pretty solid, like, episode of the week character.
Yes.
Love her.
Same.
And this week's case was a vengeful spirit. I don't know if Meredith had anything that she wanted to say about vengeful spirits or haunted buildings or asylums.
Well, I wanted to just do something short and see about some actual haunted asylums, and the one I found was, hang on, it's Italian. Poveglia Island near Venice, Italy, and it used to be a quarantine station for bubonic plague victims, I think in the Middle Ages, and then it was turned into a mental hospital in the 1920s, so you've already got a whole bunch of ghosts there.
Fun.
And the head doctor did terrible things to his patients, because, you know, it was the 20s, until he threw himself off the bell tower, which is very fun for me, because I'm just imagining an even creepier asylum that has a bell tower. According to legend, he survived the fall, that was suffocated by ghostly mist coming out of the ground. So
it sounds like he just didn't survive the fall.
Yeah.
Or if he did survive the fall, he just, like, fell and was stuck face down because too much was broken.
Yeah.
Until he died.
Or the ghosts of his patients were coming back for revenge.
I mean, that would be good for the patients, I guess. Justice
Maybe.
For them.
It's abandoned today. There's a really creepy photo in the book I have of, like, iron beds, which is nice. Today, people claim to hear the doctor's screams near the bell tower and the patient's cries in the rooms.
Fun. Love all of that. Yeah, I don't have anything really to add about vengeful spirits or asylums, except for a fun fact that the Kellogg brothers, one of whom the Kellogg cereal brand is named, the other Kellogg brother owned a asylum, and the brother that made the cereal worked at that asylum, and he was like, the dumb brother who wasn't a doctor, even though the other one who was a doctor sucked. And he accidentally made cornflakes, and then his brother, when he got successful with cornflakes, his brother tried to, like, rip him off and make his own cereals, and they got in a huge, like, decades-long legal battle over the Kellogg name.
This sounds like a movie. Like, the other Kellogg brother. You've got the other Boleyn girl. This is the other Kellogg brother.
There's literally so much information on it, but there's a really good episode of the podcast Let's Go to Court about it.
Oh boy.
It's very fun. That brings us to this week's low light and highlight. So, Meredith, what was your low light of the episode?
Dumb teenagers.
Fair enough. Mine was John Winchester.
That's a good one.
We're 1 week off of home, where he intentionally did not speak to the boys despite being in such close proximity to them. To then send them on a case like this without talking to them, absolutely infuriating. And what was your highlight?
I liked how the patients weren't the ones we needed to worry about.
Yeah, it turns out that the psycho killers or whatever were chill.
Yeah.
They just wanted vengeance, and they wanted to make sure that someone found that body.
Exactly.
My highlight was the acting. Jensen and Jarrett had this family conflict thing nailed the fuck down. Like, yeah. They were great this week in their fighting. And we gotta do this. The mental health check. I'm not a psychologist. This segment is based purely on my own opinions, and a weekly reminder that if you're struggling with anything at all, please reach out for help.
One of the psychologists we met this week was kind of the psycho himself, so
yeah, good times. This week should have been a mental health slam dunk. Sam went, for a case admittedly, to a psychiatrist. That should have been the headliner of the mental health section.
I know!
Sam spoke to a psychiatrist, talked about the conflict he's having with his brother, at least talked about something for enough time that Dean was annoyed about how long it was. That should have been great.
And then it wasn't as great as it should have been.
No, the childhood trauma was real. Dean and Sam have been impacted by John in such opposite ways in terms of how they now deal with him. It's incredible. But John treats them so differently as children that it makes sense that they have such opposite reactions to him.
Yeah.
And Dean is just burying everything. He's burying all the stuff that Sam said about how pathetic he was, and he's burying the fact that their dad might be dead. He's not even willing to talk about it. He's just shoving everything down. That's not going to work forever.
So, mental health check is not looking great.
Not good. I mean, neither of them are looking good, but Dean is... Last week I was concerned for everybody, but
You should be.
Yeah, I'm getting worried about both them. The worry is increasing a lot. Bugs, I was really worried about Sam and Dean. Home, I was really worried about both them. Dean seemed to be losing it a bit more, but then they experienced some more trauma together, so fun.
Yay!
And then this week, I'm just like, oh man, it's bad, but Dean is really pulling ahead in terms of things are getting very bad.
Stay tuned. Next week, it'll get worse.
Soul transactions, nothing for this week. And then to finish off this week's episode, we have a line of the week. So, Meredith, what did you pick?
I thought it was really funny when Kat told Gavin that if they got out of there alive, she was going to dump him.
I also have a cat-related line. I have Jean saying, hey, I got a question for you. You've seen a lot of horror movies, yeah? Next time you see one, pay attention. When someone says a place is haunted, don't go in. Because that's just perfect. Everything I needed is in that right there.
I love it when they reference horror movies and say, yeah, don't do that.
But that's it for this week. So, Meredith, what would you like to plug, if anything?
Well, I am at Tumblr and Instagram as Shades of Deianira, and if you go there, you'll see lots of drawings for the fantasy novel I am currently writing.
Yay!
Yay!
I've been KJ. You can find me on all social media platforms at Life Messes of KJ. If you want to be on the podcast, you can either reach out to me there or you can reach out through the podcast social media. You can email the podcast. Our email address is supernaturalopinionspodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at SPN Opinions Pod. We are Supernatural Opinions Podcast on Facebook and at Supernatural Opinions Pod on Instagram. And if you could subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to this podcast, that really helps people to find us. And if you want to hear more of me and my thoughts, you can check out my other podcast, Series of Opinions, available on all the same places as this one. This podcast was written, recorded, produced, and edited by me. Thank you to Faith Ebert for our logo. Our theme song is by Joe Veretta. Thank you once again to all of our amazing guests.
Don't things in this world are supernatural.